Okay, so good afternoon and welcome back to the Pink Panther podcast. It is Monday, February 6th. I'm your host, Morgan Hannafin, and today joining me is AHN alum and breast cancer survivor, Mrs. Sheila Mendleson. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
So just for starters, what year did you graduate?
I graduated in 1983.
And what was your favorite thing about AHN?
My favorite thing was probably the friends that I had. I'm still close with quite a few of them. And I think I wasn't, as I was telling you earlier, I wasn't a great student, but I think Holy Names really allowed you to be the person who you are, and whether it was academics or sports, but I just feel like it was just a great atmosphere to have good friends that I have forever.
I can attest to that too. And were you here just high school, or did you?
No, I started out in first grade.
Oh, okay.
I'm third generation, and my daughter's TC was fourth generation.
Nice. And then yes, you're still friends with your classmates. Mm-hmm. Do you get together often?
I get together. A couple of them are still here locally, and it's actually interesting. I've become friends with older sisters of my friends who have stayed here, and whether my kids have gone to school with their kids. So, but all in all, yes, we get together when we can.
Great. So I have 10 questions for you today. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you mind if I take this?
Oh, no, of course not.
So great. So question number 1, can you please tell me, when were you diagnosed and at what age?
Let's see, I'm 57, so I was 47.
Okay.
I know that because my husband had just asked me to marry him in July, and then I was diagnosed in August, and we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's nice. What stage were you diagnosed with?
I was stage 2. It was non-invasive, but my mom had just been diagnosed 2 years prior, and her sister also had it. Her mother had it. So I wanted to act quickly. Yeah,
because there was a family history. Mm-hmm. So how was the cancer initially detected? You knew that you had a family history, so were you doing regular checkups?
Interestingly enough, it was my first mammogram.
Okay.
I know you're supposed to start at 40, but I just put it off like a lot of women do, which they should not. I just went for a yearly physical, and I had lost some weight, and my doctor said, you need to have a colonoscopy, you need to have a mammogram. Actually, I was in the hospital having my colonoscopy, and they called me back for my mammogram. So that was a little bit worrisome, and I did go back, and they found it, and I decided to have a double mastectomy.
And did you see any other physical changes besides your weight? Like, were there any lumps or discoloration?
I did not feel a lump. It was very undetectable. Thankfully, I had a really good radiologist, and because it was underneath, almost in my rib cage.
Oh, wow.
So I would have never detected it, from a self-exam.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is important to have a mammogram.
Absolutely. How did you feel when you first received the news?
I was a little shocked. As I said, I had just gotten engaged, and I was kind of feeling like, oh, my life's starting again.
Yeah.
And so I was a little dismayed, but I had his support, and I had my kids' support, and I had had a lot of previous surgeries, so I wasn't really afraid to have surgery. I guess I just didn't want it to limit anything in my life that was starting.
Especially just because you got married. Yeah, exactly. You talked about your support network with your family. How did that affect your kids and your husband and your parents and siblings?
Well, my daughter Cece, who was a senior at the time, or was going into her senior year, when we got engaged, we decided to wait until she finished her senior year because I didn't want anything to take away from her big year, and so we decided to have a very small wedding, to get married in November, late October, because my surgery was scheduled for November. And that was, there was a lot of reasons to that. Primarily, I was a single mom. Their dad had moved out of the state, and, God forbid anything were to ever happen, I just wanted them to have some security.
Right.
So it was a 26-hour surgery.
Oh.
I had an amazing surgeon and oncologist, and so I had a breast surgeon and a plastic surgeon who were amazing. And then since then, Albany Med asked me to do a commercial for them, and part of the commercial was the beginning scene of our wedding, which was really
wow,
fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it was local, the surgery? It was Albany Med?
I chose to go to Albany Med.
Okay.
I knew I had other options.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm saying the commercial, but but I was very, very comfortable with the care I knew I would get here.
That's great. So can you tell me a little bit more about your treatment process?
Mm-hmm. I ended up having a transflap procedure, which is not a typical route that most women, I don't think, choose. It's where they take your stomach and they remove your breasts and then all the breast tissue, and then they take all of your fat that you have in your stomach and they move it up into your breasts.
Oh, wow.
And so then they make your breasts out of that. And I was able to use my nipple and just my nipple. So I didn't want to have an implant for some reason. That was just not something I was interested in. And I know a lot of women who do go that route, and it's great. It works for them, but I don't know whether I just wanted it out. And I didn't want anything foreign in my body. Right. Yeah. That surgery was very difficult to heal from. I probably wasn't the best candidate for it. The wounds didn't heal in my stomach, so I had drains, I had a vacuum. I don't look too pretty in a bikini, but all in all, it's all still my body, and right. I was comfortable with the decision.
And everything's good now as far as like the comfort from having that?
Unfortunately, when you lose weight sometimes in your breast, and so I don't have much these days, but that's okay. But yeah, no, I've been cancer-free for 10 years.
That's great to hear.
And I didn't have to have any chemo or radiation. Okay. I did end up having a hysterectomy and some other procedures as, ongoing. And I didn't have to take any drugs. I didn't have to have chemo or radiation, which my mom had been through. So I was grateful for that. Yeah. I think one of my youngest son's fears at the time that I was going to lose my hair. So I didn't have to put them through any of that, which was good.
And then were there any other programs or services offered to you during that time to help with the treatment?
Yes, I was a member actually of Gilda's Club long before I had any of this done. And so Gilda's Club became Hope Club, and that was a great resource. I didn't take advantage of as many as I would have liked to, just because I'm still a mom with 3 kids, and but I think Albany Med offered me, countless opportunities for support that I did take advantage of.
And lastly, what message would you like to provide to women in the community?
I would strongly recommend, I think we take care, we as women and men take care of ourselves outwardly, whether it's our hair, our makeup, our nails. So I think I would recommend that you take as much care as you would for your outward appearance as your inward appearance. So really be diligent about having a mammogram, self-check, even if nobody wants to have, that diagnosis,
Yeah.
but if you get it early, there's just so much more of a better outcome.
Yeah. All the research I've been doing is early detection is key.
Yes.
And I know that I have a family history of breast cancer. So what age would you recommend I, make that visit to have a mammogram?
Well, they say, 40, but if you have breast cancer in your family, you have to be your own advocate in healthcare these days. So I think it really depends on when you feel like you want to be on top of things, and you can push for your provider to, whether it's early screening or, whatever it might be. One thing that, and I have done a lot of research, and I don't know if this would help you at all, but when I had that physical where she told me to get a mammogram, I was very low in vitamin D, and I've done research that when you do have a low amount of vitamin D, you are more susceptible to breast cancer. So I know you're supposed to wear sunscreen, but sun is really important, and take vitamin D.
Right.
And I am BRCA negative for the gene, as well as my mother. And I think stress had a lot to do with my diagnosis as well. So just self-care, whether it's meditating, eating healthy. I would say cutting back on alcohol. I mean, at the time, I probably drank a lot of wine. And so just little things that you don't think will affect your body, in the long run, they do. So just taking care of yourself, eating well, keeping stress to a minimum, which is really hard. But you know what, even if it's just walking or, finding something that relieves some kind of stress in your life.
That's great. That's so helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.